go across to Mr. Salve first. Mr. Salve, thanks very much for speaking to us. Does this mean that there'll be greater transparency in the appointment of judges? For example, a lot of questions have been raised on the appointment of Justice Qureshi as the Tripura High Court Chief Justice, the process over there. If someone was to file in RTI, would they get a response?
The appointment of judges already has been sorted out. They have already put on the system what they are doing about which judges are getting appointed, which judges are getting transferred and all that. So all those resolutions and minutes are already on the system. Beyond that, I don't think there is a question of transparency coming in, because even if the RTI Act applies, the RTI Act is subject to limitations. Now, I mean, you can't give an RTI query saying, why did a judge write a particular judgment, or when did he write it, or whom did he discuss it with? Similarly, on certain areas like what was the discussion in the collegium, if a judge was appointed, which collegium member said what, those are not matters which are going to be covered by the RTI.
So, Mr. Salve, the order says the RTI will be used on a case-by-case basis, as you mentioned, and apparently to keep the larger public interest in mind. But isn't that a serious limitation of what's been decided by the judges today?
That is precisely what I'm saying, Vishnu, that they will decide from case to case. See, you're first of all, please understand, you're talking to a person who's a trenchant critic of the appointment system of judges through this collegium. So if you think the collegium system can be cleaned up by applying the RTI, you're completely wrong on that. The system of appointment has a big problem, and too much of transparency also creates a problem. Let me explain to you. You get 5 names to consider as judges. You appoint 2, you reject 3. What are you going to say? You will give the reason why you have not appointed those 3. Are you going to cast an aspersion on their character, saying those 3 we didn't appoint because we found one of them was a dubious character, we found one of them is given to drink, and the third fellow is incompetent? I mean, can you ever have a thing like this? So where is the question of applying transparency to such areas? It has to be on a case-by-case basis. This whole system is wrong. I agree with that. This whole system is wrong. But having said that, within this system, if you have to work this system, then the only way it can work is that to the extent possible, the information will be put on record.
So would you therefore, Mr. Salve, agree that this is not the independence from accountability, independence of the judiciary, means it has to be independent from the executive? In other words, what we've done over here is we've taken a step, but true independence, in other words, independence from the executive, not being and being more accountable to the public, that we may have taken a step, but this is not true independence in that sense, in our right now to ask questions, that it's a process, but we've not gone that far.
No doubt about it. And I think it's a very good thing that the Supreme Court has come forward and taken the view that the RTI Act applies to the judges. I think it's a big move. I remember when this matter came up for the first time, there was almost horror saying, my God, RTI is now being applied to Supreme Court. Now, today the whole, the wheel has turned full circle. Today, 5 judges have come thumpingly down in favor of applying RTI to the Supreme Court.
So is there a worry that RTI can end up being used for endless litigation and end up being, who knows, a tool of surveillance, that, that litigants would go on and try and get after judges to try and probe for some information?
I am telling you, the problems of applying RTI are such, it can only be applied on a case-to-case basis. Disgruntled litigants, people who have ulterior motives, can play hell into the system. And then on an RTI inquiry being answered, not being answered, the innuendo and gossip starts. So it has to be done very carefully.